Spring is here, and with the changing of the seasons comes the start of various improvement projects. City Engineer Kevin Krulik joins us for episode 159 of the Lebanon podcast to get us ready for upcoming road work, park and trail improvements, as well as the creation of Stone Eater Bike Park. Episode 159 of the Lebanon podcast starts now.
Welcome to the Lebanon podcast, highlighting all the great things happening in Lebanon, Indiana. Have an idea for an episode? Send an email to lebanon@lebanon.in.gov.
Hey everybody, and welcome to this episode of the Lebanon podcast. I'm Joe LePage, the City of Lebanon Community Development Director. Spring, as you know everybody, has officially sprung, and a lot of different projects have been springing about for a number of weeks, and to help kind of get us caught up and get us geared up for things that are currently underway, but also things that we can plan on just affecting our daily lives in the days, weeks, and months to come is City of Lebanon City Engineer Kevin Krulik joining us here on the podcast. Thanks, Kevin. Appreciate your insight here.
Hey, Joe. Good to be here.
But you recently, as last week, were at Centenary United Methodist Church, and there were 50 or more folks there talking about Fordice Road. That's one of the projects that we're gearing up for, and really, it's one of those things that it seems like it's going to be what we're going to see when it comes to the road projects, where it's more comprehensive. It's not as simple as putting down some asphalt. There's going to be more into it, and Fordice Road is yet another example. People that may know about Grant Street and then the sidewalks and the beautification of the lighting, that type of thing. Fordice Road, a lot the same?
Absolutely. There are several major projects, but that's one of the larger ones that we're trying to tackle this year. Probably actually go into next year as well. But Fordice Road is kind of three distinct phases to that project. If you think about it, from East Street to Park Street, not a whole lot going on there. We're widening the sidewalks on the north side of the road. We're widening the sidewalk across the bridge, but that's relatively straightforward. There's not a lot of road reconstruction. From Park Street to Grant Street, it's a little more extensive, where we're building a separated asphalt path on the north side of the road with a tree lawn separating it from the street. The street will see new curbs. The street will also see sidewalks on the south side of the road. And then the streets will have some minor drainage improvements made, and then the whole street will be resurfaced, kind of trying to clean up the mess that was left behind from the utility company coming through there and upgrading water and sewer lines in the last couple of years. And then the third phase of Fordice is really from Grant Street east all the way to John Bart Road. That is a full reconstruction, not unlike Grant Street or East Street that we've seen in the past couple of years. This is a full reconstruction, including water mains, including storm sewer mains, entirely new street reconstruction, pathway on the north side, a little bit bigger tree lawn there where we have some more room, sidewalk on the south side, new curb and gutter, new street signs, new lighting, new street trees, and that will extend all the way out to John Bart Road. So really three distinct sort of phases to that project, but really improving and beautifying that corridor and primarily looking at drainage improvements and pedestrian improvements from East Street all the way out to the new elementary.
Does that have to do with just the way that these road construction projects are going now? Is it really a concerted effort by the city to take a focus on being mindful of not only drivers, but those who are walking there nearby as the city grows? Is it one of those things we can expect to see more of what we saw on Grant Street, and you mentioned East Street, and then now on Fordice?
Yeah, definitely the approach we've taken lately is really trying to focus on the pedestrian experience. This started with the downtown project. We provided upgraded sidewalks and pathways. We provided more pedestrian refuge spaces on the corners. The bump outs that I know sometimes take a bad rap, but they're there to add a physical and really a barrier to people as they drive down the street. People drive what they're comfortable driving, and if we can make them a little uncomfortable, they slow down. So things like bump outs, things like street trees, things like street lights, all those things are stuff that subconsciously narrow the road and make people want to slow down, and that makes the places better and safer for pedestrians. Similar to work we did on Grant Street, that's still ongoing. Fordice, we're not really building the parking spaces along Fordice like we did on Grant Street, so you won't see that. But definitely we're taking that approach in trying to trying to get people to slow down, narrowing lanes down to 11 feet as opposed to the standard of 12 or sometimes much larger. But yeah, this is all an approach to try to improve the pedestrian experience, make it safer for people, give people options. So, you can get to the elementary school without having to get in your car. You can walk or ride a bike out there on a path. And that path connects to the East Street path, which connects Memorial Park to downtown and on to Abner Longley Park on the south end of town.
So even if people are chiding on social media about hillbilly hot tubs, you have to say it that way, everybody, hillbilly hot tubs, people that have said that about the bump outs and about the decorative planters, it's worth it to be able to have people to slow down, to be able to take and be mindful of pedestrians, whether it be downtown and then whether those narrow lanes kind of leaving with the same approach in other spots of our community as well.
Yeah, we think it is worth it. When people say, boy, it's tough for me to drive through there, I have to slow down. Good. That's actually.
I have to take my turn slower. I can't whip it, get a fishtail. I've got to slow down and make the
And a lot of people do you realize that? Well, yes, we do. That was a conscious and purposeful decision to make you have to slow down. We designed, especially the square, we designed that for pedestrians first. The cars are second. And I think if you approach it from that mindset, you can understand why we did what we did. And there were some spaces lost immediately around the square, but a lot of that was to create the proper separations from crosswalks to make sure those are meeting those ADA requirements. But as a whole, with the parking lot that was constructed at the northeast corner of Meridian and 32, Meridian South Street, that parking lot added another 45 spaces. So the handful of spaces we lost around the square are more than compensated for with the addition of that public parking lot.
And just a selfish personal story, when we first moved to Lebanon, younger kids wanted to take bike rides. They wanted to go to the pirate ship, which is what they called the pirate ship at Centenary United Methodist. And I remember riding on Fordice, kind of taking our lives in our own hands because there weren't any sidewalks. It was a very fast road, and with young bicyclists, it was tough to be able to take them and want to go ride on, and we had to take the opposite way to access it. But now being able to have a sidewalk, being able to have a different road that might be safer for folks to walk and bike and all those things.
And Centenary is another great example of providing the parishioners there the ability to find an alternate way to get to church. It's right next door to the former Masonic Lodge, which is now is the mental health of Boone County facility that runs the before and after school programs. So we've got a lot more pedestrian activity in this corridor, and we think that's important for all corridors, but really, if we approach any project, we're trying to approach that from a complete street standpoint. It's also right around the corner from the Little League fields and on your way to the high school and the middle school. So these corridors, Grant Street, Fordice, those are important key corridors, and we want to make sure that they are designed for everybody in mind.
And you mentioned at the open house of Morningside, that neighborhood there, and by the way, a brand new elementary school that'll be right along that same kind of part of town. And so I think you hit the nail on the head. Now, if folks are wanting to get more information, and we had 50 or so at the open house, and how did you think that went, first off? But if people want to see the plans and being able to understand what's going to take place on Fordice Road, what's the best course of action you think for that?
Yeah, I think the event did go really well. I think the sentiment of the crowd was overwhelmingly positive. They're looking forward to it. Obviously, construction is messy and dusty and dirty and takes too long, but I think people understand that. If people want to learn more information, they could come into City Hall, come up to the second floor in the planning department office, which is where my office is located, and you can look at a set of plans there. We'll also get those posted to the engineering website. I believe they're up there now, but I think that set of plans is a little outdated. So we'll get that link updated so people can view those plans online, and they can reach out. My number, my email, all my contact information is on that page. And if you have any questions or concerns, we're happy to hear those and see what we can do to address those.
Yeah, members of the public seem like they want to get their mail and have their trash taken in a timely manner. And so a lot of the folks at that open house want to have those questions. And of course, we've had zero problems with our waste management trash pickup, everybody. And you can tell I'm being a bit sarcastic. We've got City Engineer Kevin Krulik here on this episode of the Love in Lebanon podcast. If we can kind of stay in that same vicinity, that same part of town, as the asphalt plants are getting closer and closer, as the weather is getting warmer, asphalt plants will open and things will happen along Grant Street, and kind of put a ribbon on or a bow on the end of that project here pretty soon?
Absolutely. April 1st in the construction industry, or at least in the road building industry, really marks the season. And that's when all asphalt plants are typically open by. There's some that open early for pothole repairs and things like that. And some are dedicated to like the city of Indianapolis or to NDOT projects. But April 1st is when the majority of the asphalt plants open back up. And Grant Street, that first phase of Grant Street is at the top of the list for our contractors there. So they'll be moving back on site. They'll be working on curb repairs, sod repairs. There's a few other miscellaneous punch list items they have to repair. And they'll be gearing up for sometime in mid-April to pave that. And should have everything wrapped up in no more than 60, 90 days on the outside. They'll have everything cleaned up and be pulling out of there once and for all. And that same contractor, which is Reith Riley, they also have the contract for the Big Four Trail. And so we're actually going to start that project up again. We're going to pave another 1.2 miles of trail northwest of town. It's the old existing trail that they're going to just take that project a little further and continue that resurfacing and widening of the trail at that time. Also scheduled for mid-April.
So if you've ridden the trail, everybody, if you head up to Thorntown and you hit gravel patches and kind of rough areas that need some TLC, a lot of those areas, if not all, are being addressed, have been addressed, and will be addressed to create some pretty smooth sailing all the way from not only Lebanon to Thorntown, but then the long-term plan for that trail is to eventually go Lafayette to Indy, everybody, to be able to hit that trail and be able to check out a lot of Boone County, some Tippecanoe, and get down into Marion as well. And so a lot of fun things happening. And you talked about the Big Four Trail and that being added, Grant Street. If someone's listening to this podcast, you're like, geez, I don't live on that part of town with Fordice and Grant, and just how can things affect me maybe more readily? And that may be addressed by the fact that April 1st you talked about, there will be several different roadways in our community once again this year that'll be getting some reworking, some enhancement, some improvement, not just in one part of town, but through all parts.
We're still developing this plan, but right now we have about 21 streets on the list that will get resurfaced this year. And some of that is, I say we're still developing it. We fully developed a set of construction documents. We fully developed those bidding documents. Those are out on the street. But we've also been fully and wholeheartedly applying for grants to help us pay for that, to cover about half that cost. So we should know right around the 1st of April where we're at with those grants, and the project is scheduled to bid on April 22nd. So we'll know exactly what that program looks like, and some of that program is intentionally inflated in the hopes that we will get the grant. We will get the grants through our community, through the state's community crossing program, to expand that. And if it doesn't, then we might have to reapply for that grant in the fall and go after additional funding to continue that program. But yeah, it's streets all around the city. Trotwood Farms, repaving that neighborhood. Okay. There's a couple other miscellaneous streets around town. Blair Street is getting some love. On the south side of town, we're looking at Indianapolis Avenue, south of Hendricks Drive, Hallbaker Road. So there's some projects down there. On the north side, Anderson Lane is on the list to resurface that from 39 out down Swamp Road. Also an exciting project. We mentioned the Big Four Trail, and we mentioned our love for pedestrians and making the experience better for them. Anderson Lane will include the elimination of that third lane that kind of runs down the entire length of the road, which is really not needed given the traffic volumes there, and really allows people to drive a lot faster than we would like them to. So we're going to be kind of narrowing that, adding a pathway that's separated from the traffic on the north side, and again, trying to create these rings of pathway systems throughout the city to connect people.
Circular, talking rings, nothing that's in the hillbilly family though, right?
No more hot tubs. No, we leave
Kathleen
those
Flannery,
downtown.
shout out. But all these things will be done to minimize the speed and being able to enhance the experience for those people that are wanting to walk along that roadway and not have to worry about cars that are exceeding speeds.
When this is done, this will give you a separated pathway for hikers, bikers, walkers to get from Elm Swamp Road and those sidewalks that were installed the last couple of years over there all the way over to the hospital. And obviously that gets you back to the YMCA. So we think that's important that corridor is looked at from a more pedestrian-friendly standpoint. So that's in the resurfacing program as well. And, we've talked about park projects, with the Big Four Trail and that pathway. There's another handful of miscellaneous park projects that we're taking on. A new trailhead restroom at the Sam Ralston Road trailhead. Pickleball courts throughout the city are going to be resurfaced. And we're looking at a fishing pier and trail projects at Abner Longley Park as well. So a lot of miscellaneous projects, a lot of quality of life projects, but also some heavy infrastructure projects like we've got with Fordice Road.
And everybody, as you're listening to all these things and getting the insight from Kevin Krulik, our city engineer with the City of Lebanon, here on this podcast episode, the ratings and the reasons why some of the roadways are fixed are based on their need, correct? The roads that are in the best shape aren't getting improved as much as the ones that they need it. I mean, the ones that the score somehow the lowest and says this one's not doing so hot, we need to redo this thing to improve it. Those are the ones that get hit.
We're required by the state to update our pavement asset management plan every 2 years. And that's what we use to lay out a program for resurfacing. And there's some complicated algorithms that go into determining what project gets to the top of the list. We also look at things like when one project in a neighborhood is listed, we try to make sure we take care of the whole neighborhood, assuming that neighborhood was built around the same time. So, Troutwood Farms is one of those where it had a couple of streets listed, and we're going to go ahead and put the whole thing, whole neighborhood. There's also some of the streets over near Lakeshore Drive, Lakeshore Court, that area that's also on the list. I think I didn't mention those earlier. But again, we did some of those Lakeshore areas, those Daniels Crossing areas a couple of years ago in the program. And so we're going back and finishing that neighborhood as well.
Fantastic. Everybody, we're talking with City Engineer Kevin Krulik here on the Lebanon podcast. You mentioned about some projects that are taking place, not only roadway related, but also in our park system and the fishing piers and the pickleball and all those things that we're so looking forward to. Another one I'd like to wrap up with is more or less a labor of love, everybody, for Kevin. It's one of those things, a project that you have been the champion of for probably longer than you expected. But we'd love to wrap up with chatting, and we're recording on Monday, everybody. This is going to air Tuesday morning. But you've been out kind of living at the Stone Eater Bike Park area for a good while, and that's including today as well. Getting closer, though. Some positive things have happened. And by the way, everybody, there are videos that we post every month on the Stone Eater Bike Park process. I think we didn't expect to be doing that as frequently as we are, but we made the commitment to updating you every month on the Stone Eater Bike Park process. But it seems like things are finally heading towards, there's a light at the end of the bike park tunnel. And if you can kind of wrap up this podcast with being able to
it's been a while, and I appreciate the fact you're saying that I've kind of spearheaded that project, and certainly I was the one that sort of brought that idea forward. But we've had a lot of partners that have jumped on board. The Parks Department, obviously, and the Parks Foundation, they are behind that. The Park Board is behind that. We're excited to see that as a new offering to the citizens of Lebanon, but also the region, and trying to create a real destination park for those in the cycling community. And we've got partners with the National Interscholastic Cycling Association, Marian University and their cycling sports teams, the Hoosier Mountain Bike Association. We've got a lot of really great partners that have came forth. The Boone County CVB sees the opportunity there for the visitors that will bring in. And we've been talking about that since early 2020, actually late 2019. And we had a little more challenges than we thought we would have, and the park has kind of expanded as we went through that challenging process. But excited to have everything under contract now. Milestone is out there building the park access roads, and they will be building the parking lot areas, and they will also be working on the drainage infrastructure as well. We're also under contract with Pump Tracks USA, a worldwide amazing partner in the cycling sports construction industry. So we're excited to have them come in. Probably early May, they'll be on site looking to start building trails throughout the park. So there's a lot going on out there. We're out there this morning starting to build these gravel roads that will be park access roads and connector roads that will get you to the various trail entry points around the site. And can't say enough about the people at Milestone. They've been great to work with. They're also building the Fordice Road project and really led that meeting for the residents in the area last week. But yeah, we have a great team put together out there, and we're excited to be bringing this project to completion, hopefully later this summer, and be opening the park in the fall.
And I'm guessing you're a little bit elated to be able to do that 4 years after the initial spark. Former landfill, currently, I would say, underutilized, and you've seen in your love for mountain biking how this is not a new model of taking a landfill that's seen better days and no longer in use to be able to reuse it for a purpose that's one that's going to benefit community. And you talked about the regional aspect as well, being that an enhancement portion of it.
Absolutely. Also. Yeah, I mean, the environment, there's really two projects there. There's the environmental aspect of this, that this is a landfill that the city acquired in the 50s and operated till the early 80s. It was closed down before some of the current regulations. So we've been able to bring that up to the current standards with additional landfill capping, with groundwater monitoring systems. And that's all ran through the Indiana Department of Environmental Management on the permits and the approvals associated with reusing it. And then on top of that, once we've fortified the environmental asset that we have there, we're building a great space that we think is going to be a place for people to hike and walk in nature in a very natural setting. Obviously, there will be bike trails, but those trails could be multi-purpose. And then there's other opportunities for potential cross-country running. I know the Western Boone School Corporation, as well as the Lebanon School Corporation, is looking at possibly holding cross-country running events there. So we're working on coordinating that as well. But, the cycling community has really embraced this, and we're looking at creating a cycling headquarters for our community. We're looking at creating a destination for the local cycling community, and really a national model for how to build bike parks and how to reuse effectively an environmental asset like a closed landfill.
And everybody, if you'd like to stay up to date or maybe go back in time a little bit to when this idea was first in its conceptual phases, you can do that by going to the YouTube channel and checking out either the City of Lebanon's YouTube page or just typing in Stone Eater Bike Park, and you'll see the whole video series. You'll see a lot of Kevin and a lot of folks that have helped with this, as he's talked about NICA and Hill Ride and now Pump Tracks as things get closer to cutting a ribbon on that thing and getting some bikes and some runners and some walkers out on that trail. So we appreciate Kevin's insight. Thank you for coming in kind of short notice. If we could be fully transparent, everybody, Kevin was nice enough to be able to do this and record on a Monday and have it for you on Tuesday. Appreciate you being here, sir.
Anytime, sir.
Okay, so same time tomorrow. Got it. And thanks everybody for listening to this episode of the Love and Lebanon podcast. More episodes are coming your way. Take care.